Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another episode. Your margin for error is smaller in 2026. All right, so a lot of doom and gloom about the dating scene out there. We read about it all the time in online magazines, online reports, studies, data that gets shared on X, all the rest of it. Okay, we see that there's a loneliness epidemic. We see that singlehood is rising. We see that divorce is going through the roof as always, and it's all a bit of a shit show, really. But the point is that in reality, you can still make things happen. Okay, the door hasn't quite closed yet. Okay, if you want a little bit of silver lining, then there it is. The door isn't quite closed yet. Okay, there are, of course, still people out dating. There are people getting into relationships. There are people getting married. There are people having affairs. It's all happening out there, right? Now, with that being said, I think what we can state with certainty is that your margin for error in the dating process is massively reduced. All right, so what does that mean? Well, what it means is you can't make mistakes in the same way that you used to. So if you go on a date with somebody and you drop the ball, so you say something that's a little bit off key and she doesn't like it, or she doesn't like your political opinion. Shouldn't be bringing that up anyway, but some people do. She doesn't like that, or she doesn't like the fact that you try to split the bill, which is a rookie mistake. I mean, you should never do that anyway. Or there's some little aspect of you, maybe she doesn't like your haircut, your shirt's not quite in style. You know, you've seen the lists of icks that get posted all over TikTok and Instagram and so on, right? It's really famous, this idea of the ick, when a woman will get turned off by a relatively small aspect of a guy. Now, can this happen the other way around? Yes, obviously it can. There are little things about girls that you date that maybe you find annoying, and maybe you choose not to see that person again. But since this is aimed at guys, obviously we're looking at it from that angle, okay? So you have to be rock solid, okay? You have to be bulletproof in what you're doing when you get on these dates. Now, if you're also somebody who isn't getting that many dates because you are solely using the dating apps and you're getting a couple of matches a month, and out of those maybe one date every 3 months or something like that, I mean, it sounds horrific, but some guys are actually living that reality, then the problem is that puts even greater pressure on your ability to perform on the date, because you're going to be going into that date thinking, God, this is the first date I've had in 3 months. Oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to hang on to this one? How am I going to not fumble this one? Okay? And unfortunately, because of the way that the human mind works and because of the way our neurology works, that gatekeeping, that personal gatekeeping, those attempts to tamp down on any stray instincts that you have in order to behave correctly, or as you perceive it to be correctly, for this woman, will mean that you're going to come across as stilted and dry and a little bit artificial, and just not, the vibe's not going to be very good, okay? And that in itself can get you disqualified, because what's the most common thing that girls will say after a date and they don't want to see you again? They're going to say something like, it was great meeting you, I had a really amazing time, but I think I see you as more of a friend. Or, it was great, thank you for taking me out, however, I didn't really feel the chemistry, okay? There's a myriad of variations on that theme, but what it's basically saying is she didn't feel the spot. Now, if you are trying to censor yourself in real time, and you are trying not to say the wrong thing because you're super conscious about it, because this seems to you to be incredibly important, because it's going to be another 3 months, you know, it's going to be a long, cold, lonely spring, okay, then that is going to be devastating to you. That idea is going to be devastating to you. So that puts you more on guard, you're on alert, you're in hypervigilance mode, and you try to police your speech, right? You try to hold back from saying the wrong thing. You try to police your eye contact. You try to police your facial expressions, your gestures, all of this stuff. And it's impossible to do that, unfortunately. I was doing a live stream earlier with James, and we were saying on that stream that what you really want to get to is a place of detachment, okay? Really, in an ideal world, you want to be detached and amused and somewhat indifferent, let's say. Not indifferent in a bad way. I'm not saying you don't care about her. I'm not saying she's not a wonderful person or any of that stuff, but you don't want there to be too much heaviness in those first stages, all right? You want it to be quite light, quite airy, and not like this big weight, okay? And subconsciously, the more weight you're putting onto it, that's going to communicate to her. She's going to feel that, and it's not going to run as a positive, put it that way. It's not going to seem like, that's not going to add to her experience of that date. If anything, it's going to make it seem like it was a bit awkward, like you were trying to get something from her, okay, which is not what you want it to feel like. You want it to feel like this is a win-win, right? This is a mutually pleasurable experience. But if you feel like you're trying to extract something, then that's not going to play well. All right, it's not going to play well, and you're probably going to get one of those messages the next day. Now, why are these messages about I'm not feeling the chemistry, I think you're great, but I want to explore different, other things in my life right now, or I'm not ready to date, or any of this stuff? Why has this become a bit of a meme? Why is there a prevalence of this in 2026? Well, the reason is, quite simply, because of abundance. Because we live in a world where there is so much choice on the dating market, okay, or at least there appears for attractive women and some guys, there appears to be so much choice out there that, there's some little thing that you do, there's some little aspect to your personality or the way that you come across. She doesn't really like it, so why go back for seconds, all right? There's no motivation for her to, if her DMs are already blowing up with all of these guys who are getting in contact with her, and she's got matches on the apps and all the rest of it, okay? There's no point. So we're living in a very, very high demand, low supply market, okay? That's what it comes down to. And what that means is she is obviously, naturally, as anybody would do, screening for the best deal that she can get. Once again, this isn't a gendered thing. Guys will also screen for the best deal that they can get, but this is aimed at guys, so obviously we're discussing it from that way round. And secondly, in the main, although not exclusively, guys tend to have fewer options, okay? So from the point of view of the guy who's watching this, you've got to make a decision. How are you going to handle this environment, okay? Either you're going to keep going into these scenarios, keep doing things wrong that maybe you're not even aware of, right? Because if this keeps happening, we get emails all the time from guys who say things like, I keep going on these dates and it keeps going nowhere, and I ride home on the night bus on my own and I cry into my kebab, and what do I do, right? Well, if it's happening on a regular basis, I mean, a one-off here and there, fine, okay, that's life. But if it's happening to you on a regular basis, then there's probably something that you're doing. You're probably giving off some vibe that just isn't hitting the button, okay? And that's something that you need to look at. That's something that you need help with. But probably more importantly than that, you also need to get out there in order to meet more people, right? You also need to have a wider pool to fish from, because one of the reasons that this may be happening is because you feel like you don't have options. You feel like this person in front of you is maybe your only hope for salvation, maybe your only hope this year, and of course you're going to be constrained in her presence. You're not going to be able to show the full glory of your persona in front of her, because you're so worried about offending her. You're so worried about dropping the ball. You're so worried about fumbling this after you fumbled all these others, And that's the other thing as well. It becomes a negative cycle, doesn't it? It becomes a cycle of self-recrimination and self-doubt and low self-esteem and self-loathing that then communicates itself as well, right? Because if this has happened several times on the bounce, and then you're going into this date and you're worrying about her, and oh no, the same thing's going to happen again, you're already negatively projecting into the shared space, into the shared environment, okay? Negative vibes, neediness, an over dependency on her opinion of you, and it's a downer. It's not going to play well, right? Well, as I say, the solution to this is to become detached. But it's easy to say become detached. How do you actually do it? Now, there are things that you can try. You could try meditation. You can try journaling. You could try hypnosis, okay? It may be worth it. I mean, certainly something like, well, all of those things actually are valuable in their own way, and I would recommend them, but I wouldn't say that they are in themselves going to solve the entire problem. What will solve the problem is massively increasing your work rate. I mean, if you think about the idea of 10xing, okay, there's an idea in business, okay? Cardone's idea about 10xing, okay? Grant Cardone. In sales, all right, you want to make sales. You want to make 100 sales, okay? Well, in order to do that, according to Cardone, you need to make 1,000 calls in order to get 100 sales, okay? In other words, the top of the pipeline, the top of the funnel, right? There needs to be a lot going in the top of the funnel, and then some of it will come through. And I don't want to be crude about this, and it's unfortunate perhaps that it is this way, but something similar applies in dating. And really with this, it's not that you have to be dating 1,000 people, but you need to be in contact with a lot of people. You need to be meeting a lot of people on a regular basis, okay? And that way, through all of those people, not all of them are going to like you, not all of them are going to come through. You're not going to end up spending quality time with all of them, and that's okay. You haven't got time for it anyway. You should be working on other stuff. But some of them are naturally probably just going to quite like you. They're going to want to spend a bit of time with you, which means you'll be going out for more coffees, for more drinks, for more dates, whatever you want to call it. And of those, then you're going to have a myriad of experiences, okay? Some of them are going to be good. You may even end up in a relationship, but some of them are going to be good, and some of them are not going to be good, okay? And through doing that, and through repetition and through persistence, you're going to learn what works and what doesn't. You're also going to find a rhythm with this stuff that suits you, okay? And this is something that you ultimately need to find for yourself. There is a structure, there are things that we can help you with, you can teach you, but in the end, it's you who's doing it, all right? It's not me. So if I'm going out for a drink with somebody, I'm going to talk about certain things, I'm going to talk about those things in a certain way. It would be ridiculous for anybody else to copy that, because they don't have the same life experience as me. They don't have exactly the same interests or exactly the same, influences throughout my experience or my life on this planet. So it has to come from you, it has to be led by you, but it also has to work, all right? But in order to find out if it works, you've got to put yourself into the fire a lot of times, right? It needs to be stress tested. It needs to be stress tested in front of a number of people, so they give you feedback, and you're like, okay, well, I said this joke, it didn't really fly, or I told this story about this thing that happened to me, it sounds a bit lame, I felt a bit embarrassed saying it, but I said this other thing and that seemed to go really well, so maybe that's something I can say again when I meet somebody else, okay? So it's partly experience, and it's also a sense. We talk about abundance all the time, all right? And people think that it's about being some kind of degenerate kind of man whore or something, and it really isn't. A sense of abundance is the important thing. You have to feel like you can create opportunities for yourself in the social realm and in the dating realm, okay? Even if you're not taking them up, even if you're not going on second dates with these people, or you're not entering, you don't want to sleep with them because you're looking for somebody who you want to be in a relationship with, or whatever. People have different personal beliefs about this stuff, and that's fine, okay? But you do need to feel, at least to feel, as if you have the capability to make things happen. You have the capability to meet people and draw them into your realm, draw them into your world, okay? Because that really is the skill set. And once you're confident with that, then yeah, I mean, you got a date and it doesn't work out, it could be disappointing, you're a little bit miffed, you like this person, you thought that it could go somewhere, you thought she was cool and you guys could have a good time together, and she blows you out at the end, fine. But it's not the end of the world. It's not this Jacobean tragedy, It's not this sort of It's not this operatic emergency that it used to be back in the day. It's just, yeah, okay, it kind of didn't work out, you know? What can I do? Anyway, I'm going out again on Thursday. I'll probably meet some new people. That's the kind of vibe you want to have. That's the kind of attitude that you want to have with this stuff. And when you do have that, when you do carry that energy, you know, there's much more lightness there. It gives her a lot more space, all right? She's not feeling sort of pressured, or, as I said, as though you're trying to extract something, right? And counterintuitively, perhaps, that makes it more likely that she will open up to you, okay? So there really is no way round the whole thing of going out and being social and meeting new people. And I would recommend and advise that you do that in real life, okay? Because, yeah, the apps, whatever, you know, I'm not a fan. I don't think they work very well for a lot of guys. Most guys that come to me and to colleagues of mine for help with this stuff will report that they've had a terrible time on the apps. You know, it's a desert. It's a desert out there. Your experience may differ, and that's great, but this is what a lot of guys say. So if you're in that situation, you need to do something else, okay? And even if it happens that you are doing quite well on apps, it's not that great, is it? Come on. It's not the, you know, when you were a kid, I doubt anybody sat there in their, I don't know, whatever, thinking, oh, one day I'm going to meet my future wife. And you thought, how are you going to do that? Oh, well, I'm just going to pick up this block of plastic and I'm going to go like that, and then I'm going to find a picture of her. Nobody thinks that, all right? It's the least romantic thing possible. So you've got to get out, meet real people, get that sense of abundance, get the confidence up, get your shtick together, and go from there. Anyway, see you guys again very soon. Hope you enjoyed this one. Leave a comment below. Bye-bye.